If you haven't watched the previous parts, go watch them right now. The links are pinned in the comments and in the description. In the previous episode of this manhwa, we saw how the main character Hanfong lay in a bed, groaning in pain. The X-ray confirmed his fears. His leg was indeed broken. After a close examination, the physician diagnosed a stable fracture on Hanfong's right tibia, ensuring he'd be out of commission for quite some time. As Hanfong stared at the X-ray scan, he couldn't help but dwell on the timing of his accident. Of all the times for something like this to happen, it had to be right before the apocalypse was about to begin. Just then, his phone rang. It was Lee. He said he had to leave to close some deals, but told Hanfong to call if he needed anything. Sighing, Hanfong gave him a thumbs up, signaling he was fine, though he couldn't shake the frustration. Looking around the hospital, Hanfong noticed just how busy it was tonight. The city hospital was packed with patients, many of them victims of accidents caused by the sudden blizzard and plummeting temperatures. Emergency beds lined the hallways, a grim reminder of how bad things were getting outside. As Hanfong glanced left and right, wondering how long it would be until he could get his medication, something caught his attention, a sight that made him momentarily forget his surroundings. His gaze was drawn to a nurse across the hall, Nurse Jean, the head nurse, who was attending to a severely injured patient. Hanfong couldn't help but stare, his face reddening slightly. Nurse Jean wasn't just highly skilled and professional, she was also strikingly beautiful. Her delicate features, combined with her clear expertise and calm demeanor, captivated him. She had everything going for her, a sharp mind, compassion, and a disarming beauty that seemed effortless. But Hanfong wasn't the only one who noticed. An older man sitting nearby suddenly called out to Nurse Jean, claiming he had an emergency. Jean, ever polite, rushed over, apologizing for any delay due to the hospital being short-staffed. "Can I come by a little later to help you?" she asked gently. But the old man insisted, saying his back had been hurting more than usual. Unbeknownst to Nurse Jean, the old man had sneakily taken out his phone, positioning it to record her. He then asked if she could take a quick look, but Jean, maintaining her professionalism, explained that an X-ray would be needed to diagnose any real issue. The old man pressed further, insisting she take a look now, and even went so far as to grab Nurse Jean by the waist. She, visibly uncomfortable, politely tried to disengage and told him to wait for the physician. Emboldened by her discomfort, the old man moved his hand lower, clearly intending to cross another line. But just as his hand inched toward her, something flew through the air, a bedpan, and struck his arm with a loud clang. Then bam! Seconds later, the old pervert was seen on the floor groaning in pain. Seeing this, Nurse Jin asked the old Greer if he was okay, but Hanfong appeared at the scene apologizing for hitting the old man with his crutches. He claimed it was his first time using them. Hanfong then bent down and took the old man's phone, claiming he was checking whether it was broken. This immediately alarmed the old man, who told Hanfong not to touch his phone, but it was too late. Hanfong was already checking the content displayed on the screen. His expression became dark as his entire presence was dim with an ominous aura. He didn't even notice that the bandages on his leg had loosened and fallen off. Everything was just as he suspected. This old geezer got some nerve filming up a nurse's skirt and even molesting her in public. Hanfong showed the old man the video and asked for a good reason why he shouldn't call security and have them escort the old man to a police station where they love perverts like him. Hey, quick fact, 97% of you watching aren't subscribed. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It's free, helps the channel grow, and keeps you in the loop. Thanks for your support. Hanfong told the old man to scram and that he shouldn't dream of getting his phone back. Also, the next time Hanfong saw his creepy face, everything he did was going straight to the internet. Hearing all this, the old man could do nothing but grit his teeth in frustration. Then he quickly made a mad dash for the exit, running as fast as his old legs could carry him. Seeing this made Nurse Jean shout for the old man to wait. She was confused about the old man's sudden display of energy. Didn't he say his back hurt? How could he run off so quickly? Hearing this, Hanfong was utterly speechless, his mouth wide open, highlighting what he was witnessing. He couldn't believe it. There couldn't be people this naive in the world, could it? Hanfong showed Nurse Jean the evidence of the old man's sudden actions. Nurse Jean was genuinely shocked. She wondered how she didn't notice anything. Hanfong gave Nurse Jean the phone, telling her to decide whether she wanted to wipe the evidence or call the cops, whichever made her feel better. However, she should be more careful from this day forth, so perverts like the bad people don't take advantage of her. Hearing this, Nurse Jean gave her usual radiant smile, thanking Hanfong. Also, she'd been meaning to ask Han Fong about the issue with his leg. Wasn't your ankle injured? The way the question was asked sent a chill down Han Fong's spine, and as he remembered, he had a broken leg. All the pain that was masked by his urge to protect Nurse Jean came flooding in like a broken pipe. Seconds after, Han Fong's screams could be heard across the hall. Nurse Jean expertly rebandaged Han Fong's leg, and still with that radiant smile, asked Han Fong if it still hurt. No, not at all. Han Fong thanked her with vigor. Nurse Jean assured Han Fong that she'll never let such bad people get away with such behavior anymore. Hearing this, Han Fong just told her to be more aware of her surroundings and she would be fine. And to put it to a check, he lifted his injured leg to have a feel of those divine melons. And to his horror, Nurse Jean was not aware at all. Not even a little bit. She just say she will be more attuned to her surroundings. But at that moment, another nurse called for her. Nurse Jean was needed elsewhere. So as she got up to leave, she reminded Han Fong not to forget to come back in a week's time to get his ankle checked a week's time. I guess I won't be seeing her again. Han Fong thought of this as he got up, grabbed his crutches and left the hospital scene. The very next day, the snowstorm got even worse than before. It was becoming more and more difficult to even take a walk outside every channel. Was interrupted with an urgent news. It was announced that all regions in the country was experiencing the same icy weather, and other countries worldwide was no different. However, experts and specialists from 46 other countries have all gathered at UN to discuss the weather's anomaly. But one thing was certain. According to their experts, the snowstorm won't last long, so everyone should follow the guidelines issued by the government and refrain from hoarding supplies and spreading rumors. However, Han Fong, enjoying a glass of premium wine in his apartment while listening to the government's misinformation, thought it was typical for them to do so to keep their citizens from panicking. If Han Fong hadn't been reborn, he would have also believed in the pile of crap they were spouting anyway. He was prepared this time around. His supplies were fully stocked, and his house was reinforced to withstand almost any form of breaking, and has its own heating system. He needn't worry about his survival for a long while at that moment. A ding sound brought Han Fong from his reverie, and as he checked his chat group for the housing complex reside of his building, almost everyone was delighted with the current situation the world was facing. They were glad to be laying around without going to school or work. However, one message got Han Feng's attention. Someone with the chat name of Mysterious Person had announced that the Ice Age apocalypse was about to begin. Han Fong, with a surprised look, questioned himself how the person knew about the apocalypse. It looks like Han Fong needs to be mindful of this mysterious person. Reading through the comments, the property management team was under constant pressure from the tenants to go shovel the snow outside. And although it was minus 20 degrees outside, the tenants didn't care and wanted to take their cars to the supermarket to get supplies. Inside a 3D version of the group chat, there was uproar. Everyone was arguing about procuring supplies since they didn't know when the weather will revert to normal. The tenants are protesting for the property managers to show themselves. They demanded an explanation as to why they haven't shoved the snow outside the apartment complex. Seeing the angry mob, the management team apologized, saying there wasn't anything they could really do in this snowstorm. However, the tenants still didn't care. What's the point of paying them if they couldn't handle such a small matter? If the property managers couldn't help them, then they demanded a refund on the fees that they had been paying them until now. Among the crowd was Han Fong, who scoffs at the absurdity of the situation. He knows that this crisis was beyond the control of humans, so the current argument was completely meaningless. One of the residents steps up and tries to calm everyone down. He states that the snowstorm was so heavy that even if the property managers try to clear the snow by themselves, it will just be covered again in a few hours. He then suggests that they all work together to clear the snow. If they had done that, instead of fighting, they would have been able to go out long ago. After all, the property managers were humans. Just like everyone present, there was really nothing they could do in this kind of disaster. He then questions if everyone was just taking their frustration out on them. Hearing this, some of the residents question why they were the ones being lectured. Why was the person speaking on behalf of the property management team? Was he the owner? They have been paying the property managers for such situations like this. So why should they waste their energy helping? However, Glasses Man replied that he wasn't speaking on behalf of the property management team. He was speaking objectively and realistically. Besides, driving a car to the supermarket was impossible. And even if they do manage to clear the roads in their neighborhood, who could guarantee that the roads outside were also cleared? Hearing this, The angry tenants asked Glass's man what they should do. Then upon hearing this, Glass's man was delighted, so he proceeds to suggest that they walk to the supermarket. If everyone present agrees, he will personally go outside with the property management team to clear a footpath for everyone. It was in that moment that Han Fong seemed to have some recollection of Glass's man. His name was Zhang, and if Han Fong remembers correctly in his previous life, Zhang was a very lively person, and that's it. That's all he remembers seriously. But at that moment, another user cuts in saying the matter at hand wasn't complicated. So why was everyone making it such a drag? Those who want to go outside should just clear the roads, and the ones who aren't should just shut their bitches up. Fighting for half a day just to clear some snow was very annoying. His disinterested attitude on the matter was evident to see, so he immediately logged out as quickly as he logged in, leaving everyone speechless as brief silence ensues. Another user commented that he will also head outside to help. He wants the roads cleared quickly because he needed to help his good brother down the streets to discuss business worth millions. Han Fong immediately knew who the person was. After all, there was only one person who spoke in such a manner, Lai Zi. Following Lai Zi's volunteering service was a few others who also agreed to go shovel snow outside just as the discussion was nearing its end. Another user stole the spotlight, raising her hand as well. She also wanted to shovel snow outside, but added she might be physically weak compared to everyone also. She had had a flu for the past 2 days, but Brother Zhang had set an example, so she was willing to help. However, she can. Han Fong, knowing firsthand the cunningness of a user, wondered if she really intended on going in the first place. Hearing that Hyeona was willing to go do shoveling, all of her Sims hopped in as well, saying that they are willing to cooperate. They were so many ambled men, so how can they let their goddess shovel snow? She should just stay home, rest well, and recuperate. Hyeona thanked everyone for their concern, since they were insisting she will have to trouble everyone and do what she had been told. Here is the text you sent. Han Fong logged off, irritated by the bit's acting. He can't help but admit that Hyeona is really good at catching people's heart. Even he was a victim of her act once upon a time. And speaking, if the devil Li, Hyeona messaged Han Fong at that moment, asking what he has been up to lately. She also made mention that Han Fong promised her that he would contact her, so she's been waiting. Hyeona then asks Han Fong a favor to go get her some supplies, then proceeds to send him a seductive selfie wearing too little. Despite the cold, Han Fong noticed this after all. It was Hyeona's usual tactics to get her bootlockers to do her bidding. Han Fong contemplated on how to reply her. And from the looks of it, Han Feng's reply made Hyeona's poor phone face her wrath. She was really pissed with Han Feng's sudden path of a bootlicker counter on the 3rd day. Since it started snowing, the temperature was -20 degrees. In the early stages of the apocalypse, everyone still had the central heating system running, and the internet was still up and running, so everyone was living their lives as usual. Meanwhile, Han Feng was bored just on the 2nd day, and he was already bored to death. He had been scrolling through numerous videos for 3 days. It seems Han Feng's biggest problem during this apocalypse was to learn how to endure loneliness, and his broken leg wasn't helping either. It needed at least a month to make a full recovery. Not having better things to do, he decided to continue scrolling through random videos where he came across some news about the power of self-recovery. In the video, the doctors sewed up the wounds of a patient who jumped off from the 15th floor of a building after sewing. They discovered that the patient's damaged internal organs and bones had started to regenerate. This miraculous news gave Han Fong an idea. He remembered that he had an ability that promotes growth. "Why didn't I think of this earlier?" he said. Han Fong activated his green light, reached out and placed his hand on his broken leg, wondering if there will be some kind of effect. He poured everything he got into this little experiment. And as the green light dissipates, Han Fong waited for any signs of effect. But nothing, absolutely nothing occurred. Seeing this, he laid comfortably on his sofa. Feeling a bit disappointed, he thought that the green light would be able to help him recover his injury faster. Suddenly, drowsiness hits him hard, and after a single yawn, Han Fong was out cold in his sea of consciousness. He dreams he was wearing some tribal outfit while riding a mountain goat. And from what it seems, he was also traveling with the herd of goats. If you liked this episode, then don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. The next episode of this manhwa will be released once this part reaches 1,000 views or 5 comments requesting the next part.